You are listening to the Young Black Travelers podcast. Black voices talking on experiential travel, dedicated to creating a global community of travelers. So, be bold, be inspired, be spontaneous. We are YBT.
All right, so everyone, welcome again to the Young Black Travelers podcast. My name is Asshur Cunningham, and I'm the founder of the Young Black Travelers. Founder of Young Black Travelers. And today we have with us, like we usually do on all of our podcast episode. In fact, we're doing a very special episode today. And the title of today's episode is called Imagine If, and it is really a drive to motivate our listeners and motivate our community to give to our Giving Tuesday and Beyond drive to help us raise money to sponsor youths to travel to South Africa next year and beyond. And by the way, Josh is going to introduce himself, and we're going to talk a little bit more about even why he is here. So I'm going to pass the mic to you, our fellow guest. Introduce yourself.
I'm Josh. I really went to Eagle Academy for like a better education for myself, and it also gave me an opportunity to go and travel around the world as well. Surprisingly, I was very grateful for that, to be honest with you, and my journey and stuff like that. So I'll let you know more about it later on.
Good. And so Josh, by the way, so for those of you who don't know, Josh, is a former student of mine. I worked at the Eagle Academy at the time, and Josh was a student at the Eagle Academy. I'm sure if you're watching this, a very upstanding young man who takes opportunities just like he did to go to Japan, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. But just, Josh, tell the listeners, you graduated Eagle Academy, and where are you now? What are you studying? What school are you going to? Just give us a little bit background about you.
Yeah, sure.
From that angle.
I graduated this year, 2024, from Eagle Academy from Staten Island, and then I'm currently going to New York Institute of Technology, and right now I am actually studying digital graphic design, and yeah, like it's really my passion to really develop games for young Black kids and young kids in general, to be honest with you. So that's really my goal.
Wow, that is impressive. And listen, Josh is a pretty talented young man, so I definitely believe that goal will become a reality, and we can't wait to see a lot of the games and the graphic that you develop and start putting out soon. So listen, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna get into the meat of the conversation with our guest for today, Joshua Rennie Havelock. So stay tuned. All right, so welcome back to this podcast episode. Again, my name is Asshur Cunningham, and I'm here with Joshua. And so Josh went to Japan. What year was it, Josh?
2023, I believe.
Okay, so Josh went to Japan in 2023 on we'll call it a study abroad. So as he said earlier on, he attended the Eagle Academy for Young Men of Staten Island. And one of the programs that Eagle has, which, we want, young Black travelers really want to see this as a staple in all schools, is the opportunity for young people to go and travel to different countries. Usually most colleges, study abroad is a thing, but in many high schools, sometimes it is not a staple because obviously it's a different ball game in the high school space. But the Eagle Academy ensures that they have this experience, and Josh went to Japan in 2023. So Josh, tell us, why did you decide to go to Japan?
All right. To be honest with you, like Japan was one of my biggest, like on the bucket list to go. So like even if I didn't get the opportunity to go, then I'm gonna definitely have the opportunity to go later on in life. But for
Wow.
me, the biggest one that really made me want to go is that how their culture alone by themselves is really fascinating. And also due to me liking anime and manga and boba and other types of cultures that they have inside of Japan and Asia really inspired me to like really want to take a visit and understand them more when I'm actually in the physical space where they are now. So I'm really glad that I took the opportunity, to be honest. Like it was really one of my happiest things I did.
Wow. And I'm sure you can hear from his voice. He is extremely passionate. He's excited about this. And you said early on that you want to do animation and graphic design. And so it made perfect sense that you would do this. But, for those of us who are not, um, I guess, anime or what's a good way to say it? But anime, we don't watch these things or read the cartoons. Tell us what is anime. Tell us what is bulga. That's the first time I've heard that one. And I've heard manga before. So just give us the differentiation of each.
All right, so like boba is like it's basically milk tea, and they had these tapioca balls inside. It's like a little
Oh,
round
the tea. I thought
boba.
you were talking.
Yeah, no,
I thought that was an animation art form. Okay,
no,
so bulba tea,
yeah,
anime, and manga. Just give us a
manga.
differentiation between those two.
Okay, so anime has a certain like style and features that like regular cartoon does not have, and a lot of the times it can be very like different. They could really tell, but most of the time
Mhm.
it's really similar in the same way. But a lot of times it's hard to tell. We're just not really like an artist or a graphic design. But manga is basically like a comic book, really, but it's just
Mm.
filled with like cartoons that you'll really see a lot on TV. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, for those of you who don't follow these type of art form, they're different, and
Mhm.
honestly, it's a rage. A lot of people in general follow anime and manga, and so maybe it's something you should check out. It's becoming very popular here in the U.S. I definitely know for sure. But Josh, what would you say was the most surprising and impactful thing that you learned about yourself while you were in Japan?
For me, it was really that. Let's see. So I was really was surprised myself because for me, usually, and out being in the U.S., I'm used to seeing a lot of trash all over the place and a lot of like dysfunctional stuff going on.
Ooh.
But to be honest, like in Japan, it's completely different. They have certain like morals that they have that has the streets clean, has a lot of cool things. But the thing that inspired me the most about myself was that how I really took the time to understand why and also figure out like what made them this way and also how it's very easy to embrace it and to do, but it's very hard to contain to keep going on with it because it's really hard to not like leave things around and be forgetful. But a lot of times you just gotta remember how to do it. So it's really and like I took a lot of inspiration from it and took it to myself and upon myself to actually do those things like they did because it makes you feel better and also makes me feel better about it. And it also made me to be really open minded about certain foods and how people think and talk. So yeah, made me really be
Wow.
open to a lot of things.
It allowed you to be open. So when you were mentioning the trash, um, I want us to be a little bit clear because we know New York is known to be dirty. So it's that well, the US as a whole may not be known to be dirty, but New York City, where
Very excited.
both
Yeah.
Josh and I live, you know, if you've ever visited New York City, it's not the cleanest place. It's actually very disgusting when you I'm sure if you're visiting from the UK or wherever you're coming from, that's probably going to be the thing that is going to surprise you most about a city like New York. And we're going to make this statement on this podcast that Our government officials need to do something about the trash
Mm,
in New York City. We need to do a lot more because, as Josh just mentioned, he goes to a country like Japan and a city like Tokyo, and then he sees this clean city, and then he comes from a place like New York, which is the culture capital and one of the big metropolitan cities in the world, and it's a very dirty city. So that is
yeah.
interesting. But you also said it allowed you to be open minded,
hmm
um, particularly about food. Um, Tell us, w- just give us a little bit more insight on that. Like, what are the type of foods that you had in Japan? Like, what does a typical meal look like? Or when you were there, what were some of the typical meals that you had?
For me, like a lot of the typical meals was due to like being in like hotels and stuff like that. It was a lot of
Hmm.
rice and also eggs, and once in a while, you will always have rice with you. To be honest with you, like every lunch, breakfast, and dinner.
Yeah.
And once in a while, you have curry in the morning or in the evening. So it's really crazy to be like to eat so much rice, but also impacts your you call it like your energy during the day because it rice actually stores a lot of energy for you and gives it back to you. That's something that
Mm.
really people, a lot of people knows about. So yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
hmm
And so, also, how did you immerse yourself in culture to broaden your cultural perspective? Like, what were some of the things that you did to immerse into the culture to open up your perspective?
I actually download Duolingo and start studying Japan, like Japanese, to try to
Hmm.
understand what's going on around me and try to like bring myself into it as much as I can. And also listen
Okay.
to like once in a while Japanese cartoons. No, not cartoons. We call it podcasts to try to break it down for
Ah,
myself to understand what it is, like what they're about. And it's really
cool.
cool because you don't really know a lot about a culture or country unless you visit them, unless you visit them yourself and see it
Yeah.
in person because it really changes you a lot in different ways.
Makes sense. And so while you were there, so beforehand, you
Mm,
you prepped yourself. You
yeah.
download Duolingo. You practice speaking the language, which is actually really good, and that is commendable. So while you were now in Japan, what were some of the things? Even because you went with a group, correct?
Yes.
And so, what were some of the things that with the group or even by yourself that you did to ensure that you were in the culture? Did you do something different? Did you dress a certain way? Did you wear their local dress? Like, what were some of those things that the Japanese people did culturally that
Mm.
you would have done to immerse yourself?
Uh, when I got there, like I think it was like the second or third night we was there. We went to this old style um hut or like house that they have. And they like rent out rooms and it was like floor mats. Right, it was really cool. And they also gave us komotos to wear. So I really put that on and I actually like went out and actually bought one to take with me back to the US. It was
So
actually
you
very
have a
fun.
komodo.
Yes.
Wow, that is a true cultural immersion right there. Have you actually used the kimono after, well,
Yes.
bringing it back to the US?
Yes, actually, yes. It was very comfortable.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
And so what would you say? What did you learn about your time while in Japan? And how would you say a lot of the things that you learn will apply to your current studies and your career
Mhm.
goal?
For me, it was a lot of how people was very time management with them. You could see a lot of people out and about around 6 to, like, 9:30 in the morning trying to get to work, and you can see people, like, already going home around, like, 10 in the afternoon. And it's, like, really understand, like, how they take their time management very seriously. Because
Mm.
like, you will see not a lot of people out, like, during, like, the afternoon, unless you're in, like, a very big city, right? Like, what's it called?
Tokyo?
Like Tokyo, yeah, like Tokyo, like a
Uh-huh.
very big city, like, there's a lot of people there out shopping. It was, like, at around, like, 10 in the night, we were just, like, out there shopping, and there's
Hmm.
tons of people out there trying to get back home and stuff like that, so it's really cool, but let's see,
So would you say, like, because you said you want to do animation, you're studying graphic design right
Yeah.
now. The reason why well, I mean, you wanted to go to Japan anyway because it was one of those
Mhm.
countries that was at the top of your bucket list. But because, let's say, because of the art form of anime and manga, and you really want to engage in animation, was there anything there that clicked that is going to help you on your journey, your career journey, that is currently helping you now while you're in school?
Let's see. Yeah, actually, we actually bought a stylus, like a certain pen, right, that they
Oh,
have, and it's really cool because I was using it to like draw some artworks and stuff like that, and it really turned out really well. I was so surprised because they had like a certain grip to the pen that like informs more comfortable for you to use
uh-huh.
as well. So like, it was really, I really bought that and I took it with me, and I've been using it ever since. So it's slowly dying out now, but I was using it to help me with the art style I'm using, trying to use.
and and is that a particular pen that the Japanese people use to draw those type of cartoons or animation?
Yeah, actually, there's one that really came out recently. Most of I have one actually, but I
Wow.
know I just had like no, I sadly do not have one on me. I usually carry it with me everywhere, but it was really
Okay.
cool.
Wow, that's actually pretty interesting. I
Yeah,
actually would have never thought that there was a particular pen that they use for that. So that's pretty dope. And how would you say the trip influence your global perspective, your view of the world?
to be honest, like it's bigger than you think it is. Like it's a very big world. Like for me, being really in New York and New York borders by itself,
Hmm.
I was really thinking like it's really just all this, and like once in a while, like other countries I'm here and there, I'm hearing about. I really didn't get to like explore and see how big it is. But now looking back and seeing how far we had to travel and in a short period of time, but also how big the world is at the same time. Because you really don't think about it as much as you should. Like there's a whole world out there, and we really have discovered a lot of it, but we didn't really visit a lot either. So it
Wow.
was really like mind blowing for how big the world is now.
And that is actually impactful, right? And so, as you know,
Yeah.
a lot of young people may not take the time out to travel, even young people who may have the means. And so, why do you think it is important for young people who are, just like you was at
Hmm.
the tail end of your high school career, and certainly young people who are in college who now have a little bit more freedom to probably explore on their own? Why do you think it is important for them to do it? Do you think it's helpful in any way? Do you think it will be beneficial to us to connect as a society? Like, why do you think people should do it?
Yeah, I think people should do it, especially young people too, because now all you really see is people on TikTok all over the world, and you want to do the same thing. So I really will say, like, yes, it'll be very important and impactful because you're not trying to contain and close your mindset, but you're trying to also make it open for other people to understand other people's cultures and stuff like that. So I feel like a lot of people should travel. Like, there's a lot of people who they didn't leave the U.S. So I really feel like they should really explore out because you never know. You might find your next home in a couple of years. You might find your next city that you really like. You might find something out there that will impact you to bring back over here. You never really know until you really explore yourself and your options because a lot of kids these days are very scared to leave their home, but it's very impactful at the end of the day. You really see a whole new world and understand a lot of things that comes out of it.
Wow, that is actually pretty good, Josh. And I mean, I like when you said there's a lot of things you don't know if you will find your home somewhere else, and you also
Mhm.
don't know if you're going to find something that you're going to bring back with you, right? And usually when people travel, they bring back a lot. Well, travel. Yeah, when people travel, not when people go on vacations and really don't want to
Yeah.
connect with culture, but when people are intentional about connecting themselves to other cultures and learning about different cultures, they usually bring different inspiration from different places they visited into their current reality. It could be, let's say, an educator who maybe went and taught in Japan, and now they've learned the way that the Japanese education system work, and now they bring that into their classroom and they apply it there.
Mhm.
And for you, it's, your art form of different type of animation, and you're probably gonna like bring a little bit of the things that you've learned while you're in Japan or into what you do. Architecture, people do that all
Yeah.
the time. Like, people are looking at how buildings are done in different parts of the world, and the architects and designers are
Mhm.
using these influences in how they build a house or how they design a house or lay out a house. So it is
Yeah.
actually pretty important, as you said. But yeah, so before we close this segment, are there any closing things you may want to say to a generation of young people who may not have thought about traveling, who probably may have $200, $500 saved up, that they could, take a trip? What would you say to a young person who's in college, who have the time?
I'll say take that time and explore because you never know what could really happen. Like you really might find something that will explode your mind and want to explore even more further on. Or it might just take you wherever you go, really. I feel like you should travel. Travel. It's very fun. It's very opening. So
Hmm.
yeah, you should just take that time and explore because
Wow.
you never know because you might end up doing something that you like, but once you travel and find something else, it might open your eyes to something else new. So I say travel. Expect what you expect or expect what you least expected.
Yes. Take the time and travel. All right, listeners. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to wrap this entire conversation up with Josh. Again, this is a push to move and to help you to think why, well, to realize why you should give, particularly to our Given Tuesday drive, to send young people to travel and to study abroad, young people just like Josh. So stay tuned as we close this conversation out. All right. So, welcome back to this very special podcast episode, a podcast recording with Josh. And so, again, Josh went to Japan in 2023 with the study abroad program with the Eagle Academy for Young Men of Staten Island. If you haven't researched the Eagle Academy, I think you should take the time out, pause the podcast, just press pause, just go right ahead and press pause and find out a little bit about the Eagle Academy. It's an all boys school. There are about 6 Eagle Academies across the 5 boroughs of New York City, but also Newark, New Jersey. Um, so think about this: an boys from probably all over the city, because I think in your cohort it was your, like, Eagle Staten Island and Eagle Queens, I think, that went right.
Mhm. Yeah.
So imagine a young men of color, going to Japan or whatever countries they're traveling to, and how much impact that have on their lives and will have on their communities. Josh, our final question for you is, obviously we're doing this
Mhm.
drive on Given Tuesday and beyond. We're actually partnering with the Eagle Academy for Young Men of Staten Island to raise funds to try to sponsor a student to go to
Mhm.
South Africa next year. And so for those of you who need context, to sponsor one child, it's about $4,000 to send one child to South Africa. And so we are launching this Giving Tuesday drive to raise funds for that cause. So, Josh, tell the donors, tell someone who's thinking about giving, the
Mhm.
impacts that their donation will have on a child, let's say from Eagle Staten Island, from Stapleton Staten Island.
Yeah, definitely.
What are the impacts that that donation, that 5, 10, 20, 30, 100, 1,000, maybe someone can give 4,000, maybe someone can give 10,000, because maybe by then we can sponsor two children to go to South Africa. So, what are the impacts that their donations will have on a young person's life, just like yours?
It will have a major impact, to be honest with you, because think like there's a lot of people at in Stapleton, especially where there's only like a single parent home or a two-parent home that cannot afford for their kid to really travel and go with their friends to another country or just really travel, especially in high school. I feel like it's really important for them to understand that there's much more in the world than just Stapleton or just where you're living now. Like, it's a bigger thing for them than is for you giving, because for them, you could open their eyes up to a world where they understand now what they are capable of doing, and they would like to give back later on in life for other kids like them. Because if you really see a lot of people, like inspiration people and famous people, like a lot of them keep giving back to the root of where they grew up from and those places that they grew up and they lived, and kids from like them that is just keep giving back, and it keeps going back and back to the community, back to the people, and sooner or later it's gonna come back to you, and it's gonna be all because you donated a good cause for a young kid, especially a young Black kid, to explore the world and see there's much more in life than just Stapleton or the part they're living in now. There's much more in the world for them, and you can see that a lot now.
Wow. Wow, that was a really good. Thank you for that, Josh. You can change the trajectory of a young man in this case, because we are working with Eagle Academy for Young Men of Staten Island, and it's an all boys school, and so you can change the trajectory of a child, the way they think. And if you know anything about Stapleton and young people from Stapleton, and let me tell you guys something. I've worked in Staten Island. I worked in Staten Island for 4 years, and Staten Island blew my mind simply because I've lived in New York City for quite some time, but I think most New Yorkers, well, most people from New York City, the four other boroughs, and certainly Brooklyn and Manhattanites, they go around. Brooklynites are going to go to different parts of
Yeah,
Brooklyn, Manhattan. They're going to go to the Bronx, Queens. They travel. But if you know anything about New York City, Staten Island is very cut off. It's cut off. There's a bridge. You need to take a ferry to get to Manhattan. And one of the things that I recognized was that a lot of students and young people from Staten Island were not leaving the island. And that was shocking to me. And so imagine they're not leaving the island, and they're certainly also not taking a plane and going to Japan, just like Josh. So your donations will definitely open up a world to a young man. And so that's why we're imploring you today to consider giving a gift, whether small or large, to this cause, because your gifts will definitely change a generation. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today on this podcast episode recording. Listen, we are wishing you nothing but success. We are wishing you nothing but more travels. I can't wait to hear about your next trip, maybe next
yeah,
time to the Philippines, maybe to
yeah,
Korea, maybe to El Salvador, wherever you decide to
yeah.
go. By the way, do you have intentions of studying abroad?
Actually, yes. I'm actually currently trying to figure out if my college giving that out, or if I could look for somewhere else to study abroad, to be honest with you, because I want to see what else is out there for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, my advice to you is find that study abroad office. Um, I'm not sure if your school has a study abroad program, and I hopefully they do. And if they do, definitely take that opportunity. Again, thank you for joining us on today's podcast recording. And until next time, take care.